Hello and welcome to another Xterra video where I work on my truck. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. And on today's video I'm gonna be working on and trying to modify and upgrade my rear locker switch. Because honestly it's the one I have, even though it looks good, but I don't really trust him. Because you can easily accidentally switch it on as you drive or something. And that's not gonna be good. One of my friends already had an issue that he has a similar switch, and after a car wash as he was driving he noticed that his locker was on, but luckily he didn't drove for too far or too much, so that's what I want to replace for something else that I found online. It's not really meant for that, but let's see. I found these switches on eBay that actually for Toyotas. They are a dual action switch, so you can control 2 units with this switch, but I want to rewire it. So what it's gonna do is once I press one of the buttons, it's gonna sort of energize the second one, but it's not gonna work yet. So the only time the rear locker gonna work when both of the switches are on, but when either one of them are on, it's not gonna work. And also I sent them this design. They were able to make this design for me, and the total price was not that much, it was like $20 or so. So now I'm gonna look into removing this switch and trying to make this one work. I know it's not gonna fit in there, it's gonna be too big. For that I'm gonna have to use one of these and make a hole in it so it fits in there. So that's where I'm gonna work on it now. I'm gonna try to see if I can make this work. So, but first we're gonna start by removing this one out, and gonna try to see if I can make the bracket work in there, and then I'm gonna try to wire this all up. I already tested this, so I know it's working the way I want it.
Flashback.
Alright guys, so I'm doing my bench testing right now, literally working on a bench. These switches are not intended to be used how I want them to be used. They have 2 separate actions to feed 2 separate things, but that's not what I want to do. I want to make sure that only when both of them are engaged, when both of them are pressed, it's gonna send power to the rear locker or to the front locker, and when either one of them is pressed by itself, it's not gonna send power. That's what I want to do, but like I said, it was not intended for that. So I have my battery connected, I have my voltmeter over here, I have a lot of other stuff that's because I'm doing multiple projects at the same time. Anyways, so let's keep an eye on the voltmeter. After doing some testing and trying to figure this out, how this should work the way I want it to work. So my black is gonna be my ground coming in, then the blue and a yellow one is gonna be my power coming in as well. Originally it was supposed to be the red one, but we're not gonna use the red one at all. So now if I connect this over here, the ground also is connected over here. That's, let's say, assume this is a car battery, car frame or something. So we have the lights on. They not too bright, but I guess it's okay. They're slightly blue. So when I press the top button, nothing happens really. When I press the lower button, nothing happens. But when I press the top one and the lower one, there we go guys. I hope you guys can see it. I have a 12 volt. So that's when the circuit is closed. That's when the whole power is going through. But if I just disengage one of them, that's it. It cuts off the power. There is no more voltage going in. And the same if I press just the bottom one, nothing. Top one, nothing. Only when I press both of them, then we have the full 12 volts going in. So I think I got this to work. Now of course I still have to work on this because these switches, they don't fit in here. But these cars that we have in blank spaces, I think I can make it work with that. I just shave off the top, then I have to shave off a little bit over here, then I also have to cut off these parts, and if I do that, then I can slide them in there and they're gonna stay in place. So I have to cut this off, and yeah, I think it's gonna work. So now my next step is gonna be wire up this switch into my locker and make sure it actually works the way I want it. I had few of these extras, the ones I pulled out, which is like that. I had to cut it all off. That way I can slide this switch in here. So I have all my wires over here on my rocker switch. This is my two ground, my two negative cables that are gonna be spliced in with this cable, right? Then I have this one going to the locker, which is gonna be going to my this green cable over here. Then also I have this cable, which is my positive, which gonna go over here. I also have this green cable that is coming us from the solenoid. So whenever the locker is actually engaged, the way this is wired up, when I press it on, the light will not turn blue over here until the locker is engaged. So what I have to do, this wire, I'm actually gonna have to loop between this cable and my positive, I think. So yeah, I still have to figure that part out, but hopefully it's all gonna work out. So let me start wiring this up and make sure that this fits in there. All right, so this is in. As you can see, I had to cut this part and everything. So now I can test this. Is the switch gonna go in? Maybe I need to shave it off more, but it seems like it's going. The only thing I forgot to mention, these tabs, I'm gonna have to cut them so it actually can sit flush. But other than that, I think we get in there. So I'm gonna cut them off now, get my wires in there all over again, and start splicing it. Okay, so all my connections are done over here. Now the red wire of the switch, we're not using it, of course. And unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to use the solenoid wire, so I'm not gonna be getting the light indication here when the locker is engaged and disengaged. But I just have to know it and feel it that it's engaged or not. Because I mean, there's no other way for me to wire it up, I think. But anyways, it should work. So now I'm gonna tape this all up and I'm gonna test if this works or not before I push everything in place. Alright, so let's test the rear locker. So as you can see, both lights are blue, but when you press the button it turns white, so that's it when it's actually engaged. So as of now I can feel the tires, so the locker is open. So now let's say I press the top button, this one is on now, but it should not engage yet, and sure enough it keeps spinning. So let me disengage this one and engage the lower one. It should not engage either. There you go. But now when I press both of them, both lights are white, and now the locker should engage. And when I try to spin it, there you go. Sure enough, it's engaged now. So it's working. Nice. And when I disengage both of them, it should open up again. And sure enough, it's open. Both tires are spinning. Nice, it's working. I'm gonna heat shrink all the wires, tape them all up, and let's put it, and gonna put it inside there, make sure it still fits perfect. A new and improved locker switch is installed and it's working. I think it came out pretty good. So now if I press this one, nothing gonna happen. When I press this one, nothing gonna happen. It's only gonna activate when I press both of them. Then the rear locker is engaged. I think that's pretty cool. I'm pretty happy how this came out. Alright guys, I'm glad it all worked out. At one point I was concerned I was not gonna be able to get that switch to work the way it want to make a dual action. So it only when two of them engaged, it will activate my locker. But I'm glad I was able to figure out how to wire it up. Now, I did lose a wire coming from the solenoid, so I don't have the light indication anymore when the locker is actually engaged. But hopefully it's not a big deal. Hopefully I can feel it when the locker is actually working. Maybe down the road I can figure out, maybe I can put additional small LEDs and wire up that wire to that LED so it lights it up. I think that could be a good idea as well. But I think it was a good trade-off replacing this switch that can be easily tripped, and then it's not gonna be good. And I actually got multiple these switches for my friends and one for myself for the future, for something else. So I hope it's all gonna work out. So as always, I'm gonna leave all the links in the description to these particular items that I got in case you guys want to check them out as well. They were not expensive. You can pick and choose any kind of picture and words you want to have on the Switch. I think that's pretty cool, and I'm pretty glad that they actually work with those blanks. You just have to cut the blank and it fits. It sticks out a little bit, not any more than this Switch sticks out, so I think it's all pretty good. So on this note, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you might find it helpful, and as always, until next time, everybody, bye.